All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. It's going to be your Wednesday, 3/23/22 SITREP. It is 11 a.m. coming to you from the great state of Texas here, Central Time. So without further ado, let's hop on over to the board. We're going to kick it off in Skyglass this morning and take a look at what we've got up. Was looking at one that caught my eye. I thought was interesting. It was a C-130, Egyptian C-130, but altitude 105,000 feet. It's definitely not accurate. So getting some weird anomalies in here in terms of tracks and data. So you get that from time to time, and I'll show you. You'll see it here in a minute when we start looking at some of the heavies specifically. But pretty busy day up, as you can see, racked and stacked. East Coast is chock full of aircraft. Really busy here down in the Panhandle. That's going to be a lot of your trainers. A lot of trainers here down from Corpus Christi all the way up to Oklahoma. That is kind of the normal flow. If we look at the numbers, trainers, we're sitting about 71 trainers up right now. The big number under that is going to be actually the NA flights. So if we look at the people that don't want to be seen, that's going to be these right here. Now, and as you can see, East Coast is pretty chock full of people that are flying incognito, so to speak. All right. So as this thing builds up, I've got the let's see, I got the tracks set, so it's going to be building tracks here for a minute. So we'll come back to this screen here because I don't want to hang up on that. Let me get over here. I just want to show you what we've got going on US wise. If we look at the watch list this morning in the US, we've got a couple P8s out off the east coast of Florida. Kind of a normal route for them. They were just gotten up airborne. And then, of course, we got this E6, which is going to be your airborne command center. That's going to be a TACAMO, and that's going to be basically talking to the ICBMs. Over the central United States, I don't see any other E6s up at the moment, all right? And so now if we get over here to just the heavies alone, and this is kind of that anomaly I was telling you, these big up and down sprites, as you see, the green streaks going up. Those are just some kind of anomaly that happens from time to time. But those are really probably quick hops of aircraft. Very heavy in terms of the heavies up this morning. We're sitting actually at about 46 heavies, which is unprecedented. That's a lot. And when I say heavies, I'm talking about supply chain stuff, right? Things that are moving either people or assets. And again, that's only military, and that's just the United States. So very, very heavy when you kind of roll it up. And that's going to be your C-17, C-5s, and then, of course, your C-130s. And it's really heavy C-130s. There's definitely something going on. As I hit the wrong button here, let me just take a quick gander here. There's definitely something going on here on the East Coast. I don't know what it is, but this area right here has been exceptionally busy. Could be another exercise. I know we've had several popping up, and that could be part of this. These are all the NAs, like I said, only on the NAs. Now, if you mash that up against the C-130s that we were just looking at, it kind of starts to paint that picture, right? So again, this is going to be your heavies. Just note that it's very similar in terms of tracks of the NAs that we're looking at, okay? Again, East Coast heavy, all right? Okay, now look over at the tankers that are up. Northeast is kind of getting the heavy brunt of the air refuelers up right now. That could be because Flashbang has left the building and looks to be exiting the village. Now, I'm going to take a closer look at that one in here in just a second when we get out of Skyglass, because I can't actually pick him up in Skyglass, which is pretty rare. And it's one of the reasons I actually use, multiple apps, right? Because there is different looks at different ones, right? It's almost like, as I always say, it's like the four Gospels in the New Testament, right? Each one paints a different story or different viewpoint. And so some apps I can't look at bases. And some apps I can't look at all the flights. So it just, and we don't know why that is. Just from time to time, certain flights will show up. I can be talking to somebody and looking at a flight and they can't see it, or vice versa. So, all right, now let's get over here to the EU. We're going to continue on in Skyglass. I'm looking at Spycraft in the EU. I just want to show you what is currently up in terms of our watch list. Notice you've got the NATO birds up. That's going to be your E3 sentries. Particularly notice the one that's over France in that tight circle. That is doing a data grab, okay? That one is, whenever you see those E3 sentries or the AWACS planes do those real tight round circles, they're definitely grabbing data, okay? Now, we've got our regular ones up as well. You can see we've got NATO working air traffic in the region, and then we've got our two R135s and our B703s that are also kind of running routes, again, right along that, that border line, okay? And that's going to come in handy here in just a minute when I show you some of the other aspects that we have, okay? Now, if we look at the EU heavies, notice that they seem to be doing longer tracks this time, longer flights, and a little different from what we've seen in the past several weeks where they've come in, you know, they're just kind of short little hops moving assets around. They seem to be headed again into the Middle East, and you're going to see that here with the other flights. And then also Italy. So it looks like NATO is really starting to kind of build up its presence even more so, or at least strategically put their assets in play within Europe, all right? Kind of outside of the zones, keeping them spread out. But again, just a data point, but it is definitely something we want to continue to monitor and watch right now. And we looked at the air refuelers here in the U.S. again. I think this has to do with flashbang bailing out, as you can see them heavy up here in the Northeast. All right, so okay, now let me get over here. We're going to take a quick look. I want to show you. I thought this was an interesting data point, and we're not going to get to that one yet. Let me pull up the other. Well, yeah, let's look at TFRs while we're here. All right, may as well. Just to show you all these yellow boxes right here as we go through, you can kind of see those are air shows, okay, all of these. So we are entering air show, I guess it's the spring, you know. So spring air shows, same thing here, air show down here. These are normal security TFRs for base locations, border locations. That is a security TFR. I don't know what's going on out here in Mexico, or New Mexico, sorry. But that one's been up for a little while, and I don't see any space launches to coincide with that, all right? Normally it would say space operations anyway, okay? And then we got these up here in Alaska. I just want to show you. This is a space operations TFR, and let me just double check on this one. I don't know. This could be tied together, space ops, okay? And then we know we've got a very large let's see, exercise going on up here in Alaska. Now, those are security around the base, and I don't know what that one is. We're going to just take a quick gander. It's just hazards. All right, so that's probably fires or something. Okay. All right, so that gives us kind of an idea of what TFRs look like. Now, this is interesting. I don't get it. This dude just clearly doesn't respect the office of the president. I mean, he just, you know, you would think flying when you get into an aircraft, if you're the president of the United States, which used to be one of the used to be the most powerful position in the world, from a global leader perspective, you know, you'd want to fly a little pride, throw some Air Force One up there. And but this one again rolling out, this is actually call sign MC46, which is we know 46, right? We know who 45 is. We know who 47 is going to be. But MC46. Now, I don't know if that is Marine Command or what, you know, kind of like you see Marine 1. But the MC46 is a very strange call sign. But nonetheless, that is flashbang exiting the U.S., headed to Europe to go there and talk to them. Now, I've got some very interesting data points I want to touch on. I want to show you, first off, his schedule hasn't been updated since Monday, so there's nothing. They didn't post anything for Tuesday, nothing for today. Don't know why that is, but the public schedule is not being updated. So let's get over here. I just want to show you something. This is just listen to this. First off, let me just show you. This is a statement by Klaus Schwab, right? And he is the head of the World Economic Forum, or WEF as they call it. This is an article that was written by MSN, and he talks about the opportunity, right? The possibilities for change and the resulting new order are now unlimited and only bound by our imaginations. Now, notice at the top here, it says that Klaus was maybe the first global personality to jump on the pandemic as a vehicle for imposition of his new world order. All right. Now, I want you to listen to this. This right here is the, just listen, okay?
You know, we are at an inflection point, I believe, in the world economy. Not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. We've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So anyway.
New world order, and we got to lead it. I can tell you, he's not the guy that's going to lead it. I have a feeling his predecessor is the one that's talking in his ear and is probably doing the puppet pulling here. And I'm talking about the Kenyan. Something tells me that guy's not going away. Okay. So, but that is a data point, and we have to pay very close attention to that, because as we continue to talk about this World Economic Forum, we talk about this Great Reset. We're watching the things on this spider chart, so to speak, start to take shape, okay? And these guys are using it as a launch pad, as their plan, right? So when they're saying trust the plan, this, folks, is their plan, okay? And we need to be paying close attention to that, because it ain't going away, all right? They are definitely on the warpath in terms of ushering in their world order, okay? They've been talking about it ever since George Senior Bush. You can go back and listen to him talk about this stuff. You know, he was one of the guys pushing it, right? And so, but we know Klaus is doing it. Now look at this. The World Economic Forum issues an ominous warning over coming food crisis. All right, so here it is. We just looked at that spider chart, and what are we talking about in there? Food crisis, forced immigration. These guys are driving it, all right? And so don't lose sight of that. So when you see them making statements, you know, they're marching to plan. Now, we already know this because we've been talking about it and tracking it. I did want to point out, too, notice this. This is Zero Hedge is talking about 3,000 Canadian Pacific Rail workers strike as fertilizer shipments grind to a halt. Now, if you talk about wheat, you talk about wheat production, that is a major impact, all right? And then it's not just a matter of people actually impacting this by, you know, halting things, right? We've got Russia doing it where fertilizer's not coming out. That when you don't have fertilizer, you're not going to have, you know, big crops. You may have no crops. In this case, we look at the drought that is actually hurting the wheat harvest, adding to global supply worries. Now, this is out by AgWeb. It's a farm journal, right? And so these guys are kind of on the pulse of this. This was put out March 14th. Reuters put it out. Now, the reason I say that is because, remember, the wheat doesn't necessarily impact our eating, okay? There are a lot of third world countries that eat it, right? I mean, it's cereal and beers and things of that nature, right? But this is how we feed our animals. And so when you start having less food for the animals, that means you're going to have probably less animals. You're going to have meat prices going through the roof. We're already seeing that. It's already exponentially higher. And so when that starts to drive the cost of things going up and the supply going down, we are putting ourselves in a very bad predicament. And so if you aren't prepping and you haven't prepped, you need to get on it. You need to start taking this stuff seriously. I know, you know, we always look like, oh, well, we're doomsday preppers and, you know, conspiracy theorists and everything else. So I'm just telling you, I'm reading the headlines. I'm watching the stuff go on around the world, and we need to be paying attention because it's coming. And if you're not prepared for it, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Okay. And now this is the other thing too. Let's get over here real fast. I just want to show you some of the stuff that's going on. Now, I was showing you how NATO is kind of pre-positioning assets, right? Notice here, the U.S. is about to deploy an armored unit into Bulgaria to boost NATO's eastern flank, all right? We, folks, are about to be fully ingrained in this, and here's why, okay? If you look at what the Polish government is doing right now, there is a secret plan for peacekeeping missions involving 10,000 NATO troops from different countries entering the Ukraine and imposing a limited no-fly zone. All right? That is how we're going to get pulled into this, right? You'll get that no-fly zone, and then somebody's aircraft is going to get popped out of the sky, and then this whole thing's going to get really crazy really fast. All right? Now, here's the other thing, too, we got to watch. This is actually over here on Forward Observer. If you guys don't follow these guys, highly recommend it. They got their pulse on it. These guys are former intelligence analysts and veterans, military vets. There's only 4 or 5 of them that do this, and they do a very good job, solid job. This is kind of my go-to for intel, right? And so I just want to point out there are a lot of things you're going to notice up here talking about cyber stuff, a lot of cyber warfare, a lot of things. You're hearing Flashbang talk about incoming, very near-term cyber attack. Is it going to be self-inflicted? Are we going to blame it on something? Is it going to be timed with a solar flare? Who knows? But they're tipping their hat, showing you what they are up against and what we're expect to happen. Okay, and so this whole piece right here is what we're watching, right? All right, now let's talk about that just for a second. This is actually called Attack Map. It's off of sonicwall.com. It's a live attack map about just showing all the cyber stuff going on around the world. The top 3 origins, like I pointed out the other day, the United States is not some innocent bystander in this, okay? We're not kickback, just being the victim here, all right? Notice the origins, 3.79 million coming out of the United States. Austria is number 2, Denmark number 3. These are NATO countries, all right? Then you get over here, the 3 attack targets. The U.S. number 1 right now. You can see us. We're not only getting pounded, but we're pounding right back. So, but this is what's going on around the world in terms of attacks, the types of attacks, and then now these IPs. These people that are attacking are probably not using their IP address. Let's be honest. They're probably pretty dang smart, and they're probably showing from a different location. I mean, obviously, you'd think that's kind of a no-brainer, right? So that's one look at it. Now, here's another threat map. Now, I took off the one I was doing before because that was actually Russian-based. I should have known by looking at the name, but one of the cyber experts kind of pointed that out to me. And I was like, okay, so it could be a little biased. I know our U.S. government doesn't use that site in terms of their data or intel. So, but check this out. Look, where is this coming from? This stuff's all coming from the U.S. So as we sit there, this is so much like what our government has done for years and years and years, and that is project, right? We say somebody's doing something when we are actually the ones doing it. Best defense is a good offense, right? And so and that's what we do. And so I'm just looking at the stuff coming out of the U.S., look at stuff going back into the U.S., and where they're going. And so look at this one. This one here, we just nailed Japan. But you can see the stuff going on. Russia's internal. Everybody's knocking out their own stuff, blaming other people, and vice versa. This is probably kind of the direction the first piece of this war is going to go. It'll be some cyber attack stuff that's going to knock out infrastructure, cause havoc, right? There is a big article write-up talking about how the naval platforms, the ships, cargo ships and tankers and everything, do not have the adequate infrastructure in place to prevent cyber attacks. That could be why we see boats getting sideways in the Suez Canal, or dry docking somewhere, because they can be hacked into and taken over. And so just a food for thought, all right? And so as we get into the marine side of it, Black Sea is kind of the area we're watching closely. Again, keep in mind the greens are cargo, the reds are tankers. So we do see the flow of tankers still kind of getting into this area of Russia. A massive bottleneck right in here coming in between Turkey and Bulgaria. Now remember, we were just talking about Bulgaria and the fact that now the U.S. is putting 10, looks like, how many troops did we say we had in here? We're getting ready to deploy. We didn't give a number. But we're basically putting a armored unit in Bulgaria. So again, this is right in that region. And so just south of Romania. Here's the Black Sea. Yeah, we're getting pretty ingrained and embedded in Europe and in NATO with our systems and everything that's going in play. I'm telling you, Poland is probably going to be the ones that kick us right into all of this, because they're going to start putting peacekeepers in and trying to establish a no-fly zone, and that's going to probably be the dumb move that gets us all going. Okay. All right, let's get over here to Biggs Army Airfield. I just want to show you what's happening with the latest. Like I said, this place is kind of the central location for a lot of elements, right? We know we've got poppies coming inbound from Afghan. That was a very big housing facility. It's still there. It's a giant tent city. Hasn't gone away. And I do believe we still have folks being processed through there. All right, but it's kind of hard to tell. We're looking at the flights. I will tell you, we have a lot of folks that are coming through here, getting processed, and then exfilling out of the U.S. to their end destination, either in Europe, Middle East, or Asia. Okay, so we've got this one here. This is actually an Omni Air departure. It's headed to Burlington, Vermont. That's happening. That's actually in progress, it looks like. And then we've got this one here headed to Portland. Now, I don't know. That's a SPA. That's going to be Sierra Pacific. That's a small 737-500. And I'm not really sure whether or not that's carrying some poppies, putting them into their new homes. Portland would be a great place for them with everything else. Or if that is a forward positioning of some troops. We are seeing some very short burst C-130 routes, again, in key areas that could present troop movement inside the United States, kind of pre-positioning. As we move folks out, we've got to kind of backfill and put some assets in place here domestically, right? So it would make sense, and that may be why we see the uptick of the little short hauls here domestically on the C-130 heavy lifts, okay? All right, let's go over here to Omni Air. Again, this is our usual troop carriers. You can see these flights. This one here is rolling out of Phoenix, Arizona, headed to Hano, headed to Hawaii. And then this one here is actually rolling from Biggs up to Vermont. That's one we were just looking at right there, okay? All right, this is going to be your camber flights. Now, these are flights. Now, this Sofia is in Bulgaria, okay? We've been watching a lot of those flights. This is actually leaving. We don't know the end destination because it's troop carriers. They don't tell us that. And this one's coming out of Kuwait. Again, we have been located, and you're going to see the UK is doing the same thing. I was watching flights this morning, and the Brits are putting a lot of people into the Middle East right now as well. So, okay. Now, what I do find interesting is if you really look at the center of all of this, all right, and let this kind of settle in. Europe right here, right? We're just building up all kinds of troops throughout Europe. You got Russia, Ukraine right here, Black Sea, Turkey, okay? And then we're adding folks out here in Italy, and then we're loading them down here into the Middle East. But guess what's right smack in the middle of every bit of it? Yeah, you guessed it, Israel, right here. All right? So, yeah, just don't lose sight of that, all right? I think that's a very interesting data point, the fact that we are pretty much surrounding these guys. I don't know. Not good, is it? All right, this is going to be your Brits, and we see they are actually very heavy. You can see these flights coming out of their locations, Edinburgh. So we got them up in Scotland. Now, keep in mind, too, there was just a report that they were moving 6 nuclear warheads up just south of Glasgow. They were talking about that was one of the big moves. We're starting to see some pre-jockeying of nuclear warheads here in the U.S., in the U.K., but seeing them moving around. And so I think that's an interesting data point, just because I think of the current situation. If there's ever an opportunity for this thing to go hot and somebody popping one off, this would probably be the situation that it would unfold in, right? And so now I don't know why. Let's see here. Yeah, but this is actually, you can see they're coming out of the Middle East, and then of course these are inbound to Poland, and up here it looks like we're putting some stuff pretty far north into Norway and Netherlands and that general region too. Okay. Now let's go here. This is actually going to be the Ruskies. These are their state arrows. These are kind of like our blue and whites, our dignitary birds, but this is the Soviet variant of that, or the Russian variant. That is going to be Moscow and here, or Moscow, sorry. But these are their little flights that are bugging out. You can see they're not really going anywhere. We see them constantly. We watch them come out of the mountains back over here. Looks like they just had kind of almost like their Camp David, probably, right? Everybody pulled together, had some talks, but they seem to be getting back into the flow of things. So continue to watch those. And then this is actually going to be our swift flights. This is our immigration flights, or the machine that's moving things around. Notice the amount of flights headed down into South and Central America right now. Notice this one right here. I just want to point that out, headed into Colombia, because that's going to come relevant here in just a second. But coming from border town, headed into Colombia, and then look at all of these. These things are stacked back to back to back to back, headed into Cancun. So I don't know. Now, either they are getting rid of people left, right, and center from the United States, which I find very hard to believe. Now, if Trump was in office, I'd be like, that may be what's happening, and feel pretty confident about it. But I don't have any, I don't have really any clue what these guys are up to, just because it's flashbang, okay? All right. Now, we were just talking about Colombia. Remember we saw the Swift Air flight headed down there. I just want to show you. This is actually Secretary of Homeland Security. Currently, he was down here in Bogota and then up here. But why is he down there? Don't know. But is it tied to the flights that just came in? We have some bad guys getting kicked out, and they're coming down. No telling, but it's a data point. You know, you can kind of connect the dots when you look at all the folks that are going around and where they're headed. So, okay. Let's get back over here to our map, and let me just see if we've got anything. That's going to be your Gitmo 842 bird down here. That is your base commander for Guantanamo Bay, and he just went off. Now, anytime that happens and they go offline like that, if you want to save them, just go over and hit that P for persistence. Just make sure you turn it off, because if you don't, it's going to start stacking up on your numbers for aircraft up. But if you lose a plane and you see it on your app, you want to get it back quickly, just hit that P and it'll pull it back up. So this is the guy we were talking about. Again, that is a base commander for Guantanamo Bay. All right. Looks pretty busy out there. But again, these are all trainers here. A lot of trainers in here if you kind of get down into it. A lot of refuelers. Got a little AWACS up here. Let me turn his persistence off. And then, of course, we've got, see if he's still out here. There he is. That is going to be not hit. Our mail order president headed to Europe. So can't wait to see the data bytes on that one when he comes back. Just off script. This is going to be golden, man. You just hang on to your shorts on this one, because I'm sure he's going to say some things that are just out of this world as he tries to become the new world order leader. So. All right. Hey, listen, that's going to be it for today on our SITREP. I will see you guys on Friday. And in the meantime, keep the powder dry and stay frosty. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworksus.com.